right, everybody. Well, welcome to the Thursday edition of the Cigar Lounge. German, nice. Oh, nice, sweet. Okay, got Berlin. What time is it in Berlin right now? 8 p.m. Yeah. God bless you for being on so late. Uh, I am Troy. You guys know that. I'm going to share my screen, and we got some good ones today. Today we're going to be talking about two trades, and they're for the Hammer's request, double calendars. And what I thought today we'd do is we're just going to look at two. And the reason we're just going to look at two is two reasons. One, I want to keep it simple, but then also the more realistic reason is a couple weeks ago my daughter was in a wreck, and it hit me like 5 minutes ago that I thought I was supposed to pick her up in like 15 minutes from college, but my wife just texted and said I don't have to. So that was my prep for the day. Is I had chosen a bunch of tests and then I whittled them down. We're going to stick with that now. So with that being said, what we're going to do is today we're going to look at double calendars, and we're going to look at two different types of double calendars. And so we're going to do this backwards. Today we're going to look at the trades, and then tomorrow we might not actually look at the tester at all, or just for examples, but we might actually look at kind of some mechanics. We might get into some weird spreadsheet stuff. I don't even know yet, but we're going to talk kind of like really get into the meat of a double calendar, like the mechanics of a double calendar. Why is a double calendar working this year? What is happening? Who am I? Where am I? Stuff like that. So before we begin, as always, options involve risks and are not suitable for all investors. The back tester is backward looking. It's not forward looking. This is not to be construed for financial advice. When in doubt, ask your financial advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. If I was a financial advisor, I would not have a mustache. Trust me, this is for entertainment. So we're just here to have fun and talk about some trades and stuff like that. With that being said, let's jump in. So, yeah, my wife doesn't know I have a mustache yet, and at any moment she could come home and I might have to shut things off because I have to shave. So we move quickly. So two trades. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at two different types of double calendars, because double calendars, like condors, like any other strategy, depending on the strike offset, where you're at, depending on your deltas of where you're at, depending on the time, these, if you take an options trading class from like a 101, you are not going to get into double calendars or double calendars in the 101 class. You might get it into like the 102 class, do some simple spreads and stuff like that. And the reason for that is as soon as you calendarize something, as soon as you have strikes at different time intervals, you've introduced something different to the game. And we'll talk about that more tomorrow. But I wanted to show you two variations of it and how they're actually doing something quite different. And I want to see if we can figure out together what they're doing. So we'll look at each one, and then we'll kind of back out for a minute, zoom out, and look together and see what they're doing, okay? So the first one is a 14-day double calendar. And it's year-to-date. Again, we're putting all these year-to-date. Please go back and test, but just for the sake of time and stuff like that, we're doing year-to-date. And this is a strategy where you're selling a 10 delta put 14 days out, and you're buying a put of the same strike 1 day later, just 1 day. You are selling a 15 delta call 14 days out, and you're buying a call of the same strike 1 day later. So why would we go different deltas on that? Gosh, that's awesome. That's fantastic. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I appreciate it. So let's visualize it for a second. Take out the longs for a minute. If I had a higher delta call and a lower delta put, am I taking a positional bet? Like, do I think it's gonna go down more or up more? I know that's a hard way to look at it, but if it was just those two, it could be considered slightly directional. And here's where it gets tricky with options. If you look at your brokerage, one day I should just pull it up and show you, but um, if you look at like the idea of skew in options, options are skewed most of the time towards puts. There's a put skew. In the smile curve, the smile is like this if these are puts, right? They are a little bit more juiced. There's a skew to it, right? So, for instance, if you do a 25 delta condor or a 25 delta straddle on each side, you're selling them. Most of the time, when you put that trade on, you're going to usually be, depending on where the strikes are and all this stuff, you're going to usually be about one delta short. It's just you get an automatic one delta short. Like here's your one delta short token. And why is that? Because of skew. So what this is doing by bringing in the call delta up a little bit is all we're trying to do is account for two things. We're accounting for the skew towards puts and SPX, and then we're accounting for the volatility contraction if it goes up. Because a double calendar is inherently long Vega. And again, I really appreciate honesty and all that stuff. I'm thankful for it. But would it be helpful one day if we just do a deep dive on the Greeks? If we do a week where like each day we do something like Gamma, Theta, Vega, Rho, all that stuff? I think that might be helpful, but we'll do it. That'll be fun. That's the Greeks are my love language. So we'll do that. But Vega, in short, you are theoretically long volatility with a calendar, right? Now there's all sorts of caveats to that, but just from a theory, you're writing it down, the thesis of calendars, you're long volatility, right? Because your long strike is longer dated than your short strike, and therefore you have more premium, therefore long options or long Vega in general, because you have long options past the short options, you have more Vega. A lot of things going on in there. So what happens with a double calendar is they work really, really well if we go down in the market, and they tend to work less well if we go up, but they still can work. And what this trade's doing, I'm long-winded today, sorry. I just drank a Frappuccino. Now I'm just thinking about Frappuccino, sorry. The thing about when you're going down in the market, obviously volatility is going up. When you're going up, volatility is contracting. So for this trade, we're doing a 15 delta call to help alleviate some of that contraction. Like we want a little bit more juice to the upside because we know that juice is going to be diminished if we go up. Does that make sense? Saying all that to say, it's really to get delta neutral. That's the longest freaking answer I could give in my life, but I hope that helps at all. We're doing that so that we get a little bit more delta neutral and that we have a little bit more bang for our buck. Back to the tester. So we're going to put this on at 11 a.m. every day that there are 14 and 15 day options. Obviously, that really has only started this year because of the 5-day a week expirations. We're going to allocate 100% of our portfolio. And actually, let's just you can do it. You can do it because I'll share it with you. You can just test it with one contract sizing. With this one, we're just trying different things. We're going to allocate only 5 positions allowed at a time because you're putting it on every day. You can only have a max of 5 of them at a time. And we're going to prune the oldest ones, meaning on the 6th day, if we have 5 on, we're just going to take the first one we had on off, win, lose, or draw. And we have up to 100 contracts per trade. So no matter how big this gets, we're never going to trade like 60,000 of these things. We're going to try to keep it as realistic as possible. The profit target, the only exit condition on this is a profit target at 25%. And we have just some opening fees of $2.50 just to try to add a little bit more realistic stuff. So, as you can see, this has worked really well this year. All right. You have a pretty big sizable drawdown at times during the intra part of the trade. But overall, it does pretty well. You're in a trade, it's a 14-day, 15-day thing, and you're in it for about 4.5 days, right? Any questions about this before we kind of look at the why of this one with a double? And again, the point of today is to look at two different types of double calendars and see how technically the same strategy is actually trying to do a couple different things. Mm-hmm. Sure thing. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Worst case, sorry, motorcycle land. Worst case for this type of trade. Well, I'd be interested in seeing I'll definitely answer it, but anybody else in the room, you want to take a stab at, like, for a 14, 15-day double calendar, what's the worst case scenario? Yeah, could be an upward blowout. A blowout to any side, really. I mean, quickly diminishes. Once your shorts are tested, you you're getting close to danger, right? It's definitely something you want for it to stay in the area. Although here, once Ryan gives his answer, I will give my shot at it. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, I mean, definitely big news to the upside where you go through it is kind of the worst case scenario for that. Now, the good news is a on this type of trade, for 2 weeks out, 15 delta, you've got a while. Like, it would have to be a pretty damn big blowout to the upside. It'd be like one of those days where, like, the war in Russia is over and inflation print came in at like -2% for the month, and like just everything happened at one. The Queen came back alive. Like, everything is hitting on all cylinders. Um, that'd be bad. That'd be bad for this trade because otherwise, with 2 weeks out, you're probably not going to have a 1 day. Now you might have a really bad day in the sense of if there's if vol just absolutely gets crushed, right? Like, if you have a couple 30-point days in a row, 20-point days in a row where vol just absolutely gets annihilated. That's not great for this, right? Because it's long Vega. So that's the one. The other side of it is if it literally for 2 weeks just does nothing. If the market is like in a 30-point range, like if you look back at 2017, it was horrible for double calendars because the market just went like, I'm being facetious, but the market like went up 100 points in a year. It was just nothing. It was just like all quiet on the Western Front. It was insane. So your worst case scenario is either a big blowout to the upside, a slow grind to the upside that kills volatility, or um, just nothing burgers. Just every day of just mediocrity, right? Like Troy's freshman year of college, just largely nothing. Nothing's happened. So does that make sense? So that'd be the worst case scenario. Otherwise, it does pretty well, right? A little bit of movement, it works. Now, with this one, I kind of want to show you the other one too, and then talk about them real quick. So I'm all over the place today, but there's a method to the madness. So let me show you the other one real quick. So this one is year to date, same setup, 10, 15, right? Same for all the things we just talked about, except for this one is the shorts are 9 days and the longs are 16 days. Same entry. The exit's different. We're getting out for a smaller profit, but that's the only exit condition. So those two together. Does any questions about that one? As we see it, the main difference being the time differential. The first one, 14, 15 days. This one, 9 and 16 days.